I was wondering if you could walk us through what you know about the limits that the Big Ten sort of has put on the number of rapid tests they provide per day, and then what, if any, impact that has on your program specifically, given the size of your roster.
It's a good question, Parker. We're working through the details on that right now. Not sure where that's going to land yet. Obviously, a limit on the size of roster affects us more than it would about any team in the country. Walk-on program's been an very important part of Nebraska football for generations. So we're still working through the details on that. The protocols. The Big Ten's working hard. I give them credit, coming up with a lot of rules and ways that we can play football. We're just grateful that we're actually going to get to play football. I think that's the right decision. But I also want to be able to give all of our student athletes that are on our football team an opportunity to practice, compete. So we're still working through that right now.
Is there a risk that you would have to carry a smaller number of guys, or is that still part of what's being worked through?
Sure yet. I'm sure that's probably a risk. We just have more football players on our team than other people do. We're willing to test them, buy more tests, whatever we have to do, and hopefully we'll have that opportunity. But again, we're still working through that. It's unclear right now.
Thanks.
Next up from 10-11, Kevin Suits. Go ahead, Kevin.
Hi, Coach. Just wanted to get your thoughts on the season ahead. And, there's been a number of college games that have been either postponed or canceled, and now we see a surge in the NFL that's affecting its season. What are your thoughts on what lies ahead of you and the season playing out as it's scheduled right now?
We were one of the teams that really fought to be able to play. I'm glad we did that because I think we were fighting for football. I think that was the right thing to do. And we're going to have to comply with any and all restrictions and qualifications in order to be able to play. We're going to be as careful as we can. We want to give our student athletes an opportunity to do what they came to Nebraska to do. Hopefully we get to play as many games as possible. Hopefully we get to play all 9.
Next up, Nebraska 24/7, Brian Christopherson.
Hey, Scott. I wanted to ask you about your running backs. How many do you want to feel good about, going into a game, possibly playing? And how have Sevion and Marvin kind of adapted since they've been here?
Yeah, obviously Dedrick Mills is a guy with a lot of experience coming back. We're going to lean heavy on him. I think we have some guys at some other positions that could contribute some carries if we needed. But other than that, we're young at that position. I think Savion and Marvin have both done a good job of coming in and learning. Still have a ways to go, but you definitely see flashes from those guys. Ronald Tompkins has been healthier than we thought this year and has done some really good things. And there's several other guys, younger guys and walk-ons that every time they get a chance, they make plays. So I think we'll be a deeper unit at that spot this year than we were a year ago, and we need some good play from all those guys.
Thank you.
Hale Varsity, Derek Peterson. Go ahead, Derek.
Hey, Scott. Jack Stoll was asked earlier this week if he or any of the seniors had thought about what they were going to do at the end of the season with their additional year of eligibility from the NCAA. And he said that that's not a conversation that they're having right now. You haven't had any opt-outs. It seems like you've got a team that's just laser focused on the task at hand, which is this season. What do you think is leading to that mentality from the players?
Our guys have been together probably longer through this than most teams have. We got our guys back. I think it's been documented a lot earlier. They've been working together, I think, bonding together. I think there'll be plenty of chance for guys to decide what the best options for them are after the season, whether it's leaving, trying to come back for another year. Right now we have a pretty tight-knit group, and I think they're focused on becoming the best team that they can so they can compete in these Big Ten games. And our guys are just thrilled that they're going to get a chance to play some games this fall.
Thanks, Scott.
Sam McEwen, Omaha World Herald.
Hey, Scott. Thanks for doing this today, and my condolences to your family for your loss of your dad. You have a relatively young team, but at the same time, how do you feel about the depth, just like the number of players at each position, and how close are you to kind of having the number depth that you want, even if they don't have the experience? And where do you feel best about your depth on your offense and defense?
I appreciate you saying that about Dad, Sam. Our faith has gotten us through this. I can't imagine going through this situation without assurance of salvation through faith, and that's gotten us through it. We took over a team here when we got here a few years ago that wasn't probably ready to compete at the level that we wanted it to yet. I think the record's probably shown that. I'm reluctant to talk about us getting better because we have gotten better, but people take that and run with it. We had a lot of work to do. We've covered a lot of ground. Probably still have some ground to cover. Depth has been one of the issues, per your question. We're a lot closer there than we have been. Feel really good about certain positions. Some others that we could still use another guy or two, but we're deeper than we have been. It's funny you mentioned Jack. Tight end's one of the spots where we feel like we have a bunch of guys at that spot that compete at a high level right now. Every year we bring in another recruiting class. Every weight session with Zach Duvall, where we're developing players, we get closer to having not just the type of talent that we need to compete at a high level, but the depth that we need to compete at a high level. So we'll keep training our guys from the bottom of the roster to the top of the roster, and day by day, if we get better and better, we're gonna be closer to where we want to be.
Numerically speaking, do you feel better about your offensive depth or your defensive depth?
I'd have to paint that answer with some broad strokes. I think it's probably more position specific. We weren't very deep at receiver last year, and through recruiting and development, I feel a lot better about that spot. But there's probably some other spots on both sides of the ball where we lost a key guy or two, and we could still use another guy. And really, I don't think we're at a point where the depth issues will show up until we start losing guys because of testing protocols this year, or losing guys because of injuries, and then there's a couple spots where that could become an issue. But we definitely have more athletes on the team right now, more guys capable of competing at the Big Ten level, and hopefully we can keep them healthy all year so they can show what they can do.
Thank you.
KLKN, Andrew Ward.
Hey, Scott, thanks for doing this. Condolences as well. Just you kind of touched on it briefly. What has this past couple of weeks been like for you with the emotions of the Big Ten coming back and then obviously the loss of your father?
Yeah, I found out about both things on the same day. The day they announced the season was the day we lost Dad. Should have been a happy day, and it wasn't. I kind of said that without faith and hope, I don't know how people get through something like that. But I'm just glad that I was blessed enough to have that kind of father. A lot of people in this country grow up without that type of father in the home, without two parents in the home. I think it's one of the biggest problems affecting America right now. And I was one of the lucky ones that had a good father that would sacrifice anything for me. It's my job now to carry that forward and give him myself to other people. It's been a challenging few weeks. When I feel the most at peace and happy is when I'm out on the field with the guys and pushing them to be the best they can be. And that's been some good medication for me to be out on the field again. So I'm lucky that we're able to do that.
Next up, Mitch Sherman, The Athletic.
Hey, Scott, certainly echo the sentiments of the others about your dad. Hope your family's well. Can you speak to the guys getting the pads back on this week and, what that did for the spirits of your players who haven't been in that situation since November? And then a group that impacts in particular, what are your expectations going through this month from what you see out of the offensive line?
It's not just the offensive line, it's our whole team. As this is played out, we lost spring ball, but we ended up with a whole bunch of non-padded practices between walkthroughs and the start of camp when the season got canceled, and then bringing guys back and having them in no pads for a long time. We were able to get a lot done, but there's only so much that you get done until you get pads on. And we're going to have to kind of fast track that. Usually you have about 4 weeks with that, and we have a little over 3. Our players haven't had shoulder pads on since November until they put them on the 30th. So at a little quicker rate than we would have had to do in order to be ready to compete, particularly with the schedule we're faced with at the beginning of the season. We need to be ready because those are some good teams. We're going to fast track that. I think it's going to help our team be ready to compete and combative and be tough. And we're trying to balance keeping the guys healthy and fresh with doing as much as we can to get them ready to play physical brand of football.
How do you feel about those guys up front on offense, particularly the leadership you have from the older guys and Cam too?
Feel good about the offensive line right now. Farniok and Hymas should be ready to have the best year that they've had in Nebraska uniform. We're going to be counting on a couple young guys. Bryce Benhart and Brant Banks is going to have to contribute. Feel a lot better about guys like Cam Jurgens and Hickson having some experience and a year under their belt playing those positions and getting into games. Bo Wilson is another guy with experience that's healthy now and looking better than he did last year. There's some others that are young that we need to come along. Piper, some other guys, Bando. We're going to have to piece the thing together, but I feel like we have more bodies to choose from and more guys that are battle tested in the Big 10, and we're going to have to count on a couple young guys to grow up quick.
Next up, Husker Online, Sean Callahan.
Hey, Scott, I'm curious, what do you guys know as far as the travel restrictions the Big Ten is going to put down? Will travel roster size be the same size? Do you know much about kind of hotels and what they're saying as far as kind of recommendations for traveling, if there are any at all at this point?
Sean, we've received a number of documents from the Big Ten. They have a lot of work to do, so you understand trying to put all these protocols in place and think through all the problems and hiccups that could arise. I don't know much about those things yet. We got a little bit of time before that first game, and hopefully we'll come to some clarity on those things. I'm just trying to get a football team ready right now. The documents they're sending us are 20 pages long and read right like contracts, and there's still a lot of questions that we have. Right now we just got our head down trying to get our team ready, and hopefully we'll have time to solve some of those issues.
No red shirt rule this year. What are the real advantages as far as being able to have more guys available that you can utilize maybe in special teams in different areas?
Yeah, everybody's going to be able to play without fear of losing a year of eligibility. That changes your thought process a little bit. That being said, you still want to put the best players you can out on the field. I think the issues with this year not counting as year eligibility are probably going to be bigger decisions down the road when you just decide how long to keep people on the roster, how long guys want to stay on the roster. There's going to be some answers that we need down the road, how to navigate that. For these 9 games we have this year, we're just going to play as many guys as we can and whoever we think is going to help us win football games.
Got time for 2 or 3 more for Coach. Evan Bland, Omaha World Herald.
Hey, Scott, scheduling question for you. I know Bill Moose has expressed wanting Iowa to play on that Black Friday this year. Are there other games that you guys would be interested in looking at playing on Friday this season, and how's that process going?
I don't have much to do with the scheduling. Our guys are excited to play. We're just grateful we get to play. I think we probably landed with probably the toughest strength of schedule in the conference, and because the conference is so strong, maybe the country, I don't think our guys care. The players don't care. They just want an opportunity to compete. We were one of the schools fighting to get to play, and we're just excited we get to play. I don't think beggars can be choosers sometimes. That if they tell us we're playing on a Thursday, we need to be ready to play on a Thursday. If it's Sunday, it's Sunday, and if it's in Uzbekistan, we're going to have to probably stop in a couple places on the way over there. Wherever and whenever we get to play, our guys are just excited to get a chance to compete.
Back to Parker Gabriel, Lincoln Journal-Star.
Scott, probably can't follow Uzbekistan, but as you've watched teams around the country get going and some of the problems that they've run into that maybe you wouldn't think of off the top of your head, like not having a long snapper available or being short at one position or another as the season goes on. Do you think about that? Are you planning on practicing or training in any different ways as you see those scenarios, or does the rapid testing provide you enough cover that maybe you don't have to worry about that contact tracing element as much?
No, I think, Parker, as many protocols and safeguards as you try to put in place, you can't anticipate what's going to happen. So we're going to try to be as safe as we can and keep our kids healthy. But you don't know. The one thing we've looked at is how many players we have at each position that have tested positive for the virus or positive for antibodies. Feel good about our ability to field the team at a lot of positions. There's some others we don't have any of our guys that have had the virus or have antibodies. So you just never know. I don't think there's any way to handle that. If at a couple of those positions we have 3 or 4 guys get it and are out for 21 days, it's going to be hard for us to find a way to get ready to play. That's just the way it is. I think we'd live with it if it was deep snapper. We probably have more of those on our team than some other people do, but there's a couple positions where we could be real short, real fast, and I just don't know how you would anticipate how that's going to happen.
Kelsey Casper, KLKN.
Hey, Coach, this unusual season obviously takes a mental toll on your players as well. How have you been able to, motivate your players and keep them positive during this time, also knowing that you're going to have to motivate them for a tough season this year?
Now isn't the time, Kelsey. We're struggling to motivate them. They actually have something to look forward to and a game on the horizon now. Tough time to keep them motivated when there was so much unclarity and so many questions and so much uncertainty. Trying to get them to continue practicing when we didn't know if we were playing for sure. Once season was canceled and we were continuing to workouts, it was hard. For anybody in life, if you don't know what you're working for, it's hard to give everything you have. So we feel better about that right now than we have. This is going to be a fast season, so we need to be as ready as we can. And I don't think at this point motivation's an issue for our team or probably any others, since we're all expecting to play football.
WOWT, Joe Nugent. Go ahead, Joe.
Scott, no doubt the extended offseason wasn't anybody's first choice, but with the extra time, is there a positive, especially for a team trying to put in a new offense? Is there a way to use this to your advantage?
Well, we got a lot of reps. I think that helps some of the new guys catch up. I wouldn't agree with you that we're putting in a new offense. We certainly have a new offensive coordinator that has worked with me before, and he and I are working hand in hand to make little changes that we need to be a more efficient offense. I think every year you change a little bit on offense and a little bit on defense. If you're not evolving, you're falling behind. But these extra practices, extra time has probably allowed a lot of our young players to assimilate a little more, get a little more comfortable, and probably have a little bit more time to get familiar with schemes on both sides of the ball. So I would kind of expect teams that need them, that a lot more young players around the league are able to contribute because of the extra time they've had.
All right, and last one today, we'll wrap up again with Sam McEwen, Omaha World Herald.
Scott, you've always had a habit of telling us about any season-ending injuries that the team may have. Are there any of those at this time, players who won't be participating in camp or playing this season?
Yeah, the only one I can report right now, Sam, is Braxton Clark. Was having a really good offseason as a defensive back for us, was going to be a contributor, was doing a pre-practice, not even that violent a drill, and had a shoulder issue that'll probably keep him out the rest of the season. We have a few more guys nicked up, and we're waiting to hear. But for the most part, our team's been pretty healthy. Obviously, it's heartbreaking anytime someone has a season-ending injury, and we feel for Braxton. But our guys have done a good job handling the practice they have, and for the most part, we're pretty healthy.
Your corner depth's a little tight with Braxton out. I mean, that doesn't leave you with a lot of wiggle room, right?
We'll see. There's a lot of young guys doing a lot of good things. Some guys playing well right now. So I got a lot of confidence in the guys we have. Braxton was certainly going to be a part of that. We actually think we have a good chance of getting Quentin Newsom back. The extra time probably helped us with that. He's been cleared. That certainly helps. And some other young kids that we brought into the program are doing a really good job, and I think are going to be able to compete this year. We certainly can't handle a lot of injuries at a few positions, that being one of them, but our team will rally.